Democrat Grant Randall and Republican Mike Houser squared off Thursday night in a head-to-head Lincoln-Douglas-style debate. Presented here is a portion of that debate.
Thanks for coming out tonight. Thanks, Pat and the Advocate, for stepping up right in the middle of our heat thing and back through there and saying they'd do it. It's pretty nice of you guys. I'm glad we're getting to do this. Mike and I both agreed that this is a pretty important position. There's a lot of important issues in Kansas right now. 30-second sound bites aren't enough to get the point across, and so we both wanted to come talk it out. Wanted to say, for those of you that don't know me, what I stand for and what I'm running on. Number one, education. There's a lot happening to our schools right now, a lot of negative going on. Budget cuts, just wiping out public education. And I think our schools are the centerpieces of our communities. That's the number one thing I'm fighting for. Number two, property taxes. I'd like to be one of those candidates where I can just say, I'm going to cut all the taxes and I'm going to fix everything. I'm going to make it rain. I'm going to get everybody a sack of money and pat you on the head and promise everything you want. But instead of doing that, I want to narrow it down to the things we can focus on. One of those is property taxes. We'll probably talk about that more in the debate. We'll get into detail. The other one is a comprehensive vision for job development in Kansas. Kansas is in bad shape job-wise. The whole country is. And when the country's in bad shape, Kansas is always at the bottom usually. And I don't want to be there anymore. I'm sick of it, and I think there's creative solutions that we can apply. It's a large vision, but we're going to share that today as well. I think we can move forward with that if elected. And lastly, I wanted to say, if nothing else, Mike and I can draw a crowd. And there's been a lot of talk about the debate, and I'm sure all of you are undecided voters, don't you think? But if you came to see a fist fight and knockdown drag out, I'll share something. Mike and I met in the hall just a minute ago, and just about at exactly the same time, we both looked at each other and said, November 8th, let's get a drink or something. So, we will attack each other. We're going to attack each other, politically. I think that's an important difference. And I think you can get nasty and go after each other politically, because if you believe all the same stuff, why are you running against each other? So that's going to happen, but if you came to see a big show, I don't think it's going to get to that point. Who knows? Even if it does, we're going to have a lot of fun. I just want to thank you all for coming out, and if you're going to the game afterwards, good luck to all your kids. I think Mike and I are heading over to Riverton. And thanks a lot for coming. Thanks, Advocate.
Well, I don't know how many of you don't. This thing can hear me? All right, thank you. My name is Mike Houser. I'm here from Plums, Kansas. I've lived here most of my whole life, about 48 years, out of 53. Grew up here. I love this town. I wouldn't want to live anywhere else. I love the small town values we have and the people that live here. Why I'm running is I believe that we deserve better than what we've been getting from Topeka in the past. Like Grant said, job creation is number one on the list. Everybody knows that. I had a poll out on my site, and it seemed like that was the number one question, was the education funding and jobs in the area. And so tonight you're going to hear two different ideas probably on how to attract jobs to the area and fund their education. And so it's your job to decide which ideas you support and vote for that candidate, Some of my endorsements have been, I've been endorsed by Kansas for Life, Kansas Chamber of Commerce, National Federation of Independent Business, National Rifle Association, Kansas State Rifle Association, American for Prosperity, and Political Chips. And all those people see something in me that they like, and that's why they chose to support me in these endeavors. But last time I ran, I didn't hardly get any endorsements at all. I think it's a big honor to get some of those. And like I say, I'm going to leave it up to you guys tonight. We're just going to talk about the issues and try to spell out where I stand, what I support and what I don't support, and Grant's going to do the same. Thank you all for coming, and hope you learned something tonight.
All right, Mr. Houser, you get to ask the first question.
Well, Grant, we've just talked about it, and I've been on your webpage and read and listened to you speak. And you speak a lot about putting Kansas back to work, but I have yet to see anything on how you plan on tackling this issue. I'm curious, I'm sure they are too, as what your plan, your job creation plan actually going to consist of, you know. With the growing debt, without growing our state and local and federal debt, where would you have our residents work? Under the public sector or under the private sector? And then I'd ask you to elaborate on how you plan to accomplish the growth necessary to create these jobs.
The answer to that is going to be a well-rounded, long-term vision for growth. Right now, what I see is a movement towards, Sam Brownback's openly stated, getting rid of the income tax. You know, it's been just a kind of a slash and burn tax plan, and just hoping that we're going to somehow make up all this revenue that we're losing. You know, which most statistics show we'd have to have 550,000 new jobs at 50,000 a year in the next 5 years just to meet that revenue that we're losing. To me, that's not worth the loss. That's not worth the risk. To me, what I look at is an educated workforce. I look at infrastructure for new business. I look at, good, solid, fair tax for business, not to scare off business. I look at niche growth for small business. You know, we need to build, instead of having this plan coming down from Topeka, we need city plans here that says, you know, Galena, we both know what they're doing. Great stuff there with the hospital. Baxter, grow towards I-44. You know, tap into Cowtown, tap into Route 66. Every one of our towns has something special, you know, and this is something we both talked about. Small business is where it's at. But those are the things that attract people to live here. Those are the things that grow business. One of the problems I have with the Brownback plan is that when you lose that income tax, you cannot compete competitively in the economic sector. The 9 states that don't have an income tax currently rank last. This was actually, Bloomberg published a study in the middle of the summer in economic development over the last 5 years. Companies are looking for more than the slash and burn tax policy. And I think education is a huge, huge part of that. The Industrial Revolution, as we know it, is over. I have a lot of friends in tech industry, and there's negative employment in tech industry. There are jobs waiting to be had in the tech industry. We're not training our kids towards that. If I was your representative, I would be at the doorsteps of colleges like Labette, like NEO, moving satellite campuses into all these empty buildings in our downtown squares for a couple of days a month, talking to people who are 40 and 50 who have lost their jobs. They could train on associate's degrees for those, talking to high school seniors to move into those fields. The jobs are there. The jobs are waiting to be taken, but we have to train the people and get ready to take them from these companies. The possibility is there, it's screaming for us, but we have to get on the first part of that wave. I don't want Kansas to be on the back of the wave watching the rest of the country do it, like we've watched Germany do it, like we've watched Japan do it. It's time to move forward.
See, here's one part where we disagree on. I happen to personally believe that if we would turn loose some of the tax revenues and let the businesses reimburse and have some taxpayers keep some of this money, it would be just the opposite effect. He quotes a survey where 9 states, you know, have the highest tax rates. I saw a survey in another survey of the rich states, poor states, that said the 9 states with the lowest tax burden on their population were the ones that were growing in population and business. And you take that's like Wyoming, Texas, Florida, and your highest taxing states like California, New York, up in the Pennsylvania area, they have the highest taxes, and they're losing businesses and they're losing people. So what I want to do is create, with lowering the income tax rates, we're going to create a business where it's going to be more attractive for businesses to come to the area. Nobody's going to want to come to Kansas if they can't make a profit. And that's why they're leaving states like California. They're facing some serious problems out there because their tax bases are too high.
Mr. Randall, you have the next question.
There was time for a second vote, wasn't there? Shorter one?
I'll let you have 30 seconds.
Okay. When you talk about those economic indicators, we've seen that those states, those 9 with the lowest, actually grew in the last 5 years. You're right, and they grew at 8.7%. The states with the or the states with the highest grew at 8.7%. The states with the lowest grew at 10.1%. I mean, and that's from the Congressional Budget Committee. The numbers are just there. And we're going to make up that lost revenue. It's a teeter-totter situation on taxes. When we waive the one and get rid of one, we're making up that lost revenue with the sales tax, like Brownback just mentioned, is threatening to keep, and with property tax. Nobody wants to live here. It's going to be hard to work if you can't live here. We're going to hope businesses come to make up that revenue. You know they're going to be driving back to Missouri to live. We have to look at it from a common sense standpoint. I'd like to just wave a wand and get rid of all the taxes, but it's going to teeter-totter. And it's hard to hear, but it's the truth. And your property taxes will go up when you cut those income taxes. They already have been.
Next question.
No, we just.
You would like to use under 40 seconds, I gave him three.
Yeah, I still like to say that I disagree with you, Grant. And that's one of our major differences between the two of us, is how we look to go about solving the problem. If you just look over what's happening in Galena, the doctors that came over here, you know, they came here for an advantage, and if we could give businesses just one more little advantage, you know, we can't just do a slice and dice. Everybody knows that. That's irresponsible, and I think that it could be done in increments of balance, one way or another, and it's going to take a while. I mean, we all know that it's not going to be a quick fix.
Your question.
Well, you know, that's the hottest issue we have, so of course my first question was pretty much the same thing. You know, and so let me tweak it a little bit just on the fly. And I was going to say, you're going to shake my hand after this because there's not going to be any gotcha, you know, type question. I wanted the first question to be just like yours. You know, we've been hearing a lot of these 30-second sound bites, so what are the specifics? You know, and I want to talk about, you mentioned broaden the base a lot. You know, broaden the base, broaden the base, broaden the base. So I'm just going to throw you one at you and let you run with it. You know, what are the specific plans for broadening the base, the tax base?
Well, the specific plans of my ideas, it's just what I just said a while ago. I mean, we have to make Kansas a more business-friendly climate. And we're going to do so by, A, letting those businesses make just a little bit more profit than they normally are. B, we're going to try to reduce some of the regulations on the businesses, heck, even on the farmers around here. We've got so many EPA regulations going on that some of them are just way out of, you know, wacko. Should be able to do away with some of those things, or at least get them reduced. But like I say, that's making Kansas more friendly to the businesses that come over and the people. As a matter of fact, you know, like I said before, the people are going to want to come in because they're going to be able to keep more of their hard-earned money. When you tax income, you're stealing that wealth. You're taking wealth out of the system and just redistributing it. I mean, the government jobs don't create any. They're created by the businesses and the people that work there.
There's a lot of talk about what exactly small business is. You know, and I don't see a company with 500 to 1,000 employees as small business. You know, and I look around what we need and I see small business. I think of the people I know on main streets that have 1 to 10 employees and the kind of things that they're dealing with. And to be honest, most of them that I know are operating at a loss most of the time. And so a tax break isn't going to help them. You know, what they need are other businesses in town. What they need is having their property taxes lowered. What they need is to maybe be considered in a different tax bracket or be considered in a different utility bracket even. You know, instead of commercial as a 500-person business. You know, the coffee shop downtown with a part-time employee and one owner shouldn't be getting taxed the same as Walmart. And so I think one solution I would have would be to break those up into more graded and prorated, what's a small business, what's a medium size, and then apply those tax rates and apply those regulations in those ways.
You know, small business, they grow if you give them an incentive to grow and if you allow them to keep some of their profit and